Tonight on Reporting Scotland, the party's over.
Time to go home.
The Scotland team are flying home tonight after last night's dramatic exit. We hear from the Tartan Army as they begin the journey home.
Sick.
That last chance that we had, we messed it up, but the last chance they had, they scored it. But so it is what it is.
We'll hear from the manager, Steve Clarke, and the players ahead of their arrival back in Glasgow. Also on tonight's programme. People are told it's now safe to go outside, but fire crews remain at the scene after a huge blaze at an industrial site at Paisley. We're out on the campaign trail as the Scottish Conservatives launch their election manifesto.
And in the sport, I'll be live from Germany for the final time with more reaction to the match that broke Scottish hearts.
Hello, I'm Laura Miller. Welcome to Monday's programme. So, Scotland's Euros dream was not to be, and the party for the Tartan Army, well and truly over. Today, the very many fans who made the journey to Germany, some with only one-way tickets, hoping this would be the year, turned homewards. In the end, it was the most dramatic of exits for Steve Clarke's team, a 100th minute goal from Hungary sealing their fate. Now, the post-mortem, but not before thousands said Auf Wiedersehen. Our sports news correspondent Chris McLaughlin reports from Stuttgart.
Time to go home.
A familiar feeling for many, for others a rite of passage, a new pain they'll never forget. The party is over.
Absolutely sick. Sick. Sick.
That last chance that we had, we messed it up, but the last chance they had, they scored it. But so it is what it is.
Was everyone else was Scottish, I would imagine. Sad. Disappointed and sad.
The country, because we felt everyone behind us, and we knew the excitement back home, and yeah, sorry for letting you down.
The in-depth analysis of what went wrong will come, but in truth, the performances that got Scotland here were missing throughout.
This might be the last hurrah for this group of players, this next one. So we've moved on a wee bit from where we were in the last 20 or so years, but not a huge amount. Where do we go from here? Well, I think a lot of people will be saying, new manager, is that going to really make it a lot better? I'm not convinced by that at all.
But for 2 weeks here in Germany, the Scotland fans made memories together they'll never forget. They marched, they sang, they partied and brought Scotland to a foreign land. Like always, the locals couldn't get enough. For these fans, Euro 2024 was never just about the football.
It's been a great 2 weeks. The German people have been fantastic.
What was the best part?
Do you mean football or just in general?
Just in general, what was your best part?
Legoland.
Your best part of the trip was Legoland?
Yep.
On the pitch, it was hard to take. Off the pitch, the Tartan Army provided the party they promised. Now home to dream of next time.
Well, Chris is in Stuttgart for us tonight. Chris, it's all still a bit raw, isn't it? But just if you can, sum up this tournament, this experience.
Where to start, Laura? I mean, the football wasn't great, wasn't it? But I think the Tartan Army travelled here more in hope than expectation anyway. As I said before the start of this tournament, this was always going to be about more than just football. This was about a country coming together to believe that this time it might be different. Now, it wasn't, and it will hurt for a while, but the thousands of hardened Tartan Army foot soldiers and families alike will have made memories that will outlast that hurt. That's absolutely for sure. For 2 weeks, the Tartan Army have had a ball here. They've been praised in every single city they have gathered in. They will not regret this trip, absolutely in no way, even if the football was the same hard luck story.
Yeah, for the final time, thank you very much, Chris McLaughlin in Germany. A Dundee woman who made thousands of pounds secretly selling elephant ivory on eBay has been fined in what's thought to be the first case of its kind here in Scotland. 67-year-old Joyce Bell sold nearly 100 items of costume jewellery made with ivory from the tusks of elephants, claiming they were made of legal bovine bone instead. She was fined £1,400 at Dundee Sheriff Court after admitting selling the banned items in breach of the 2018 Ivory Act. Firefighters remain at the scene of a fire at an industrial estate near Paisley. The blaze broke out at an electronic waste facility last night after reports of an explosion. Local residents had been asked to keep doors and windows closed. This afternoon, the Fire Brigades Union expressed concerns about regulations around electronic vehicles and battery storage. Well, the reporter Ben Phillip joins me now from the police cordon in Linwood. Ben, what more can you tell us about this?
Well, Laura, we've been kept a distance from where the fire happened. The facility is still smouldering tonight, and this giant hose, which is snaking its way around the road here, is carrying water to the firefighters who are still trying to dampen down the area. The fire took hold around 9 last night, sending thick black smoke into the sky, which drifted towards Glasgow. It could be seen for many, many miles. More than 55 firefighters were here overnight. The fire service has described this as a challenging incident. Local residents had been told to stay indoors, keep their windows and doors closed. That advice was lifted in mid to late morning, but the advice still is for people to avoid this area. The facility's operator, Enva, has described this as a contained incident and said no injuries have been reported.
Yeah, we're seeing those pictures now, Ben. Quite incredible. But this afternoon we heard from the Fire Brigade Union. What have they been saying?
Well, we should note that this is only the latest fire in a number of fires which have been taking place in these sorts of facilities. There was a battery recycling plant in Kilwinning which was on fire a couple of months ago. The recycling centre in Aberdeen burnt down 2 years ago. And tonight the Fire Brigades Union has expressed concern about what is kept in these sorts of facilities. In a statement it said it was worried about hazardous materials in devices which are challenging to extinguish when on fire, and the union said it hoped crews were safe and could safely decontaminate afterwards. Investigations into the cause of the fire here in Linwood are now ongoing.
OK, Ben, thank you. The Scottish Conservatives have launched their manifesto with a promise to focus on real priorities. Party leader Douglas Ross admitted the election campaign had been a tough scrap, but said he was up for the fight as he committed to fix the roads and cut tax for Scottish families. The Prime Minister used the event to criticise the SNP for making Scotland what he called the high tax capital of the UK. Here's our political correspondent, David Porter.
Politically in step, two Tory leaders in Edinburgh to unveil the party's Scottish manifesto. But first, the issue of the day.
It was a penalty. It was 100% a penalty.
That the view of an internationally qualified football linesman. Then on to the other contest, the general election of 2024.
We are up for this fight, just like the Prime Minister. He's continuing to take the fight to Keir Starmer's Labour Party. He is the only leader. He is the only leader with a clear plan to take our country forward and to deliver a better, more secure future for Scotland and the whole of the United Kingdom.
And the offer to Scotland. The manifesto focuses on what it says are the priorities of ordinary Scots. There's a commitment to improve transport, the NHS and education, even though these areas are devolved to Holyrood. To cut taxes, both income tax and national insurance, and to move away from the constitutional wrangling, namely independence. Rishi Sunak always knew that calling a general election in July was going to be a political gamble. But the spate of bets on the exact date, July the 4th, has led to the gambling authorities mounting an investigation. Rishi Sunak and the Scottish Conservatives will be hoping that the investigation does not overshadow the rest of the campaign.
Well, it's important to remember that the Gambling Commission investigations are independent. I don't have the details of those. They don't obviously report to me. But what I can tell you is we have been in parallel conducting our own internal inquiries and will, of course, act on any relevant findings or information.
And keen to attack the SNP and Labour.
There's a clear choice at this election, particularly here in Scotland. If you want your taxes to continue to be cut at every stage of your life, it's only the Conservatives who are going to do that for you, in contrast to the SNP, who have made this the high tax capital of the UK already, and Labour, that has got tax rises planned for everyone worth thousands of pounds. I don't want to see that happen. But it's also clear that here in Scotland, that it's only a vote for the Scottish Conservatives that mean focus on people's priorities, on the day-to-day issues they care about, and not more obsessing about independence.
Smiles for the cameras, but as polling day looms, the Tories will not want any further distractions. David Porter reporting Scotland at the Scottish Conservative manifesto launch in Edinburgh.
Well, that's what the Scottish Conservatives were up to today, but what about the other political parties? Our political correspondent Rajdeep Sandhu joins me now. Rajdeep, what's been happening elsewhere on the campaign trail then?
Well, John Swinney was speaking at Robert Gordon University in Aberdeen, and he was marking the fact that it's been 8 years since the EU referendum. And he said it's cost Scotland billions, that Brexit has cost Scotland billions. He attacked both the Conservative and Labour Party, saying you can't be a party of Brexit and a party of growth. And he said voting for either party would be to see the continued Brexit damage. He said that the only way to rejoin the EU is if Scotland became an independent nation and joined of its own accord. He's also accused both the parties, the main parties, Labour and Conservatives, of a conspiracy of silence on future spending cuts. Now, we've heard that from him before many a time, but today it's interesting because the Institute for Fiscal Studies has been talking about that as well. And they say there is this stark choice for the next UK government, whether to put up taxes, cut spending, or borrow more money. And that is something that they say neither the Conservatives nor the Labour Party are being very honest about.
So what's Labour been saying?
Well, Labour's Shadow Chancellor Rachel Reeves was at Whiteley Wind Farm today with the Scottish leader Anna Sawa. She's been talking about new jobs, so just under 70,000 new jobs in Scotland in kind of green industries and growing the economy. And she says it would take time to turn things around to that IFS point, and that she didn't want to make spending promises that she couldn't keep. Her big thing is that she wants to grow the economy to create more money and more investment. But of course, it's very hard to know how quickly that can happen. We've also been seeing the Scottish Liberal Democrat leader, Alex Cole-Hamilton. He's been campaigning on what he called a issue that is absolutely central to the party, that is on care. We can see him there at a care home in Edinburgh. And what the party want to do is raise care workers' minimum wage by £2 to make it a more attractive job.
OK, Rajdeep, thank you. 10 days to go by my reckoning. OK, well, throughout this general election campaign, we have been hearing from you. We've been all over the country asking various communities about what matters most to them in this election. Tonight, we're in Perth. Our reporter Louise Cowie has more.
When the new Perth Museum opened earlier this year, it was billed as a world-class attraction that puts the area at the centre of Scotland's story. The Stone of Destiny is the jewel in the crown of a venue that celebrates 10,000 years of history. In the shadow of the museum today, residents enjoying the sun in the city's cafes are looking to Perth's future.
Kind of like our transport links aren't fabulous, so I would think probably an improvement in that would be quite good, a bit more like regular services.
I'd like to see Bell Sports Centre being redeveloped. It's going to close because of the flooding, and that to me is terrible.
City centre was a lot more buzzing with things like Debenhams was there, other smaller shops and chains were there, and you just gradually see them all closing down.
Many feel-good projects. The old City Hall now museum is very nice, it's great. Is it going to bring in the number of tourists to compete with Glasgow, Edinburgh or other well-known tourist destinations? I don't think so.
But with more than a week still to go till election day, there's also a sense of fatigue in the fair city.
I think we got past the halfway stage, and I basically am numb to it. I think we've had the debates, and the same old questions keep recurring, and the same old pivoting and non-answers.
To be honest, I've found it all very wearing. That find it very hard to have any faith in any of the politicians of any party. They all seem to promise a great deal and I suspect deliver very little.
How that apathy translates will become clear once the votes are in. Louise Cowie reporting, Scotland, Perth.
OK, let's get tonight's sport now with Lewis Irons, who is still in Germany. And Lewis, this will be your final sports desk out there because it's time to come home for everyone, sadly.
Sadly indeed, many people will struggle to hear that, won't they, Laura? But good evening from Stuttgart, where, yes, as we saw earlier in the programme, it is, as expected, not as lively here as it was over the last few days. And I'm here in one of the fan zones where you could probably tell it is pretty quiet, partly because there isn't another game here in Stuttgart until Wednesday, but mainly because Scotland fans have started to make the journey home after another major tournament that has ended in disappointment and the team failing to progress from the group stage. Well, our reporter Sheila McLaren has taken a look back on that disappointing 1-0 defeat to Hungary.
Ending as it began, with a serenade from their German hosts. But this time there was a sombre mood amongst the Scotland squad as they departed their training base following last night's elimination.
I think massively disappointed. The only way to describe the feeling in the changing room after the game. Obviously we came here wanting to win the game and try and do something that a Scotland team's never done before, but yeah, it wasn't to be.
We dominated the ball, we had enough of the ball. We didn't create quite enough. And to me, why that's not a penalty. It's 100%. And like I said, it's a one-goal game, we get the penalty, can be a different night.
The result left Scotland bottom of the group with just a single point from that draw against Switzerland. There have been plenty of questions about the lack of attacking threat. Just 2 goals and 3 shots on target in the entire campaign.
I think it's really just a case of getting them together, get back to the team mentality, the club team mentality that we had at the start of the campaign, and go from that. And we've got to hope that there's a couple of young boys coming through that might make a difference.
I think he's took us this road, and I think he should still remain, is what my personal thoughts on it are. You know what I mean? He's led 2 successful campaigns. I think that's how it should be.
It's been a roller coaster 9 days, full of hope, frustration, optimism and finally despair. Next up for the squad is the Nations League in the autumn, where the quest to qualify for the World Cup in 2026 gets underway. Sheila McLaren, reporting Scotland at the Stuttgart Arena.
Well, I'm joined now by our sports reporter Jane Lewis, who is at the place Garmisch Park in Kirky, where the team based themselves throughout the tournament. Jane, it started in dancing, it ended in disappointment, but how do you summarise the mood from where the team based themselves?
Well, this Bavarian town has been home from home for the Scotland squad for the past 15 days, and it certainly offered them plenty. It gave them peace and quiet, a really tranquil setting away from the hustle and bustle of the cities where the matches were being played, and it also provided them some really impressive training facilities with some great views to boot. But yeah, as you say, they've now left Garmisch Park in Kirchen. They're on their way back to Glasgow. They'll arrive there later on this evening, and no doubt on that journey there'll have been plenty to ponder. There'll be plenty to ponder for the foreseeable future as well, because big questions will be asked as to why Scotland couldn't deliver during this tournament. There was plenty of promise after a really impressive qualifying campaign, but the players just did not get things right over the 3 matches during this European Championships. There'll be questions no doubt asked about the manager's future. There'll also be questions no doubt asked about some of the players' international futures as well. But they'll need to regroup, they'll need to refocus with that Nations League campaign coming up in September.
Well, Jane, from the team camp, thank you. And for the fans that are maybe remaining here, there are some back on Scottish soil already. We got some of their thoughts earlier today.
From the day we landed to the day we finished, it was just as you saw it on the telly. No Scotland, no party. Everywhere we went, we had a great laugh. It was amazing, fantastic.
It's a great experience, but yeah,
Gutted, absolutely gutted. And there's 8 of us that have been going to Hampden for, I don't know, since we're schoolboys, so to be honest. So that was amazing. That's, you know, we always said it would be a trip of a lifetime, and it certainly was.
Well, let's turn our attention from the Euros here in Germany to rugby, shall we? Because it was a memorable weekend for Glasgow Warriors, who lifted the United Rugby Championship title after a dramatic win over Bulls in Pretoria. The Warriors, who returned back to Glasgow with the trophy in hand this afternoon, produced a remarkable comeback from 13 down to stun their South African opponents. And head coach Franco Smith hopes that a first Scottish piece of silverware in 9 years can spark more success.
I think we've been carrying this weight, or Scotland's been carrying this weight for too long. Now, fortunately, there's enough Scottish players in this team, you know, to have that belief reinstilled. I think it's always there. It is more the you know, the fear of disappointment that I think kept them back, and that you know, sometimes leads to a burden because you don't want to make mistakes in the end, and instead of going out and, you know, conquer the victories. And hopefully this week, this last 3 games has proved that the players have that ability, and they now have that monkey off their back of the fear of failure, basically.
Finally to tennis, and Andy Murray has not made a decision on whether he will be fit enough to make a planned Wimbledon farewell next week. The 37-year-old had a procedure on a back issue at the weekend, but insists no decisions have been made about his participation in the tournament, where he won 2 of his 3 Grand Slam titles. Well, the dream was to be here. The story was meant to be one to remember, but was ultimately decided by moments to forget. So for the final time here in Stuttgart, Laura, it's back to you in the studio.
Yeah, safe travels back, Lewis. Thank you. Well, finally, a tale of some sporting success to finish. A teenager from Granton in Spey has set a new world record for tossing the caber. 18-year-old Andrew Murphy broke the world record for the number of cabers tossed in 3 minutes yesterday afternoon. He managed 26, each one nearly 16.5 feet long and weighing 88 pounds, breaking the previous record of 16, which was held by a Canadian athlete. See, we do have good news, don't we? Weather too, Gillian. That's been pretty good.
Yes, I know. It hasn't been like this everywhere. East was best today, Laura, but it has been largely dry. Good evening to you. And it has been the warmest day of the year so far. In some parts, we recorded 27.1 Celsius at a Boyne in Aberdeenshire. Hasn't been wall-to-wall sunshine. Across western Scotland, we've had scenes like this. Heavy cloud, temperatures nowhere near as high, but still that mild and muggy feel sticking with us as we head into this evening, because we're pulling in that warm, moist air from the south. We have a weak weather front moving in from the northwest, bringing thickening cloud and some patchy rain to the Western Isles and the Northwest Highlands. Further south and east across the country could be the odd spot of rain where that cloud is thick enough, but it's generally dry, light winds. And look at those temperatures holding up for some at 14 or 15 Celsius. So tomorrow a mild and muggy start. We'll have a good deal of cloud tomorrow, and we'll see a scattering of showers breaking out in the afternoon, especially for eastern Scotland. Some of those will be on the heavy side. There will still be some bright and sunny spells. This is a snapshot at 4 o'clock. You can see some sunshine for Shetland. Temperatures certainly down on today, about 21, 22 Celsius the highs. For western coastal parts, that's where we're likely to see the best of the sunshine coming through later in the afternoon as that frontal cloud nudges eastwards. Here, skies brightening quite nicely by the end of the day. And into tomorrow evening and night, that cloud and patchy rain continues to nudge away eastwards, leaving us predominantly dry as we start the day on Wednesday. Now, there will be a lot of cloud around on Wednesday. There will be the risk of a shower, especially during the afternoon. We'll see cloud thinning and breaking, some sunshine coming through, but that will trigger a rash of afternoon showers, some of which could be heavy, could even be the odd rumble of thunder. A cool feel for eastern coast because of some hard drifting in off the North Sea, so a reversal of fortunes. It will be warmest in the west. Into Thursday, we have an area of low pressure heading our way, and it's looking unsettled with blustery winds, some bright and sunny spells, but also risk of a shower. That's the forecast. Laura.
That's it from us. Good night.